Daf Lamed Tes Amud Aleph will begin the Mishnah right on top of the Amud. These are the vegetables with which a person can be Yitzis for Mora on Pesach. The Chazeres with Chazeres. The Gemara is going to define this whole list that we have in the Mishnah. It's going to be defined in the Gemara with Chazeres, Betamcha, Becharvina, over Ulshan, over Mor. You can be yaitz with them whether they're moist or they're dry. Avaloi kevushim, but not if they're kevushim, not if preserved. Rashi says kevushim, they're kavush, they're preserved in vinegar, which the Aruch HaShulchan defines as the length of time, the amount of time that if you would bring it to a boil, that amount of time that it would take to boil, to bring it to a boil. The other Mefarsh Magen Avraham says is that it means even in water, if it's soaked in water for 24 hours. So there it loses the taste of mor, and therefore you cannot be yaitze with it if it's like kavushim, veloy not kavushim, veloy shlukim, and it can't be a sholok either. Sholok is that it's overboiled. And not also mevusholim and not mevusholim, not boiled in the regular way. You can't be yaitz with it any of these ways. Taisus explains that this is loizu avzu katani, that it tells you not only if it's preserved, not only if it's shlukim, but even if it's boiled. So I could have said boiled, and I would know certainly that even if regular boiling it's not kosher, it's possible. Certainly if it's overboiled or preserved, but it's lo yizu avzu ketani. Umitztarf and lekazayis, and you can combine all of these to the shir of kazayis. You have to have a shir of kazayis for morer, even though it says al matzos morim yachlu, referring to the korban pesach, that it's eaten with the korban pesach. It doesn't say achila per se regarding morer, but we make a hagish to the matzah that the matzah is achila. The morer also has to have achila. And therefore, they can have to have an achila, but you don't have to have the kazayas from any one of these minim. You can combine these minim to make up the kazayas. The yaitzim bekelach shalahem, and can be yaitza with the stalks as well, not only with the leaf, but also with the stalks, but not the roots. Shulchan Aruch says you can't be yaitza with the roots. You can be yaitza with the leaves, with the stalks, but not the roots. So, but the mai, and you can be yaitza with it with the mai. If it was vegetables that were purchased from Amoritz, and there is a shaila, if the mice were taken off, you could be yaitza with the mai. Uva ma'aser rishon shenil trumos, and a ma'aser rishon where the trumas ma'aser has been separated, and a ma'aser sheni v'hekdesh sheniftu, and ma'aser sheni v'hekdesh that you were pointed them, that you could be yaitza. So it could be yaitza with the mai, because a person can be mafkes nachasim and it's edible to him, he can eat it. Ma'aser rishon and shenitel trumos where the trum was taken off, so it's roy lachila, he can eat it, and ma'aser sheni v'hekdesh sheniftu. So they make a diuk. The diuk is made that, but tevel, you cannot be yaitz with that. It's dafka with these, but Rashi's medaik, the tevel you can't, because in tevel it's an avera, and it's a mitzvah bo ba'avera. So you can't be yaitz. Now, even though ma'aser yerakos is derabanan, and in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, achilas moror was a deraisa. Amatz morim achlu. Bisman is that there's no korban pesach, it's a derabanan. But in the time of Beis Hamikdash, it was deraisa. Nevertheless, you cannot be yaitz with tevel, even though this is an issur d'Rabbanan. Still, it's considered mitzvah ba'avera, and you cannot be yaitz your deraisa, even though the avera is an avera d'Rabbanan. And we saw this, Rashi says, in the case previously by the ot sheina naka, which is also only a tevel d'Rabbanan, but the same din applies. Now the Gemara is going to define some of these vegetables that were mentioned in the Mishnah. Chazeres is chas. Chazeres is lettuce. So you can be yaitza the moror with lettuce. Some say it should be romaine lettuce. Some say it's even regular lettuce, even though the lettuce is not bitter. But if it's left and it's not harvested, it will become bitter. But the Chazon Ish says the lettuce that's used should have some sort of bitter taste. So you can use Chazeres lettuce. Ulshin Hindavi. Ulshin is Hindavi, which Rashi says is he defines it as Crespala, but we define it normally nowadays, it's translated as endives. It's a Tamcha. What is Tamcha? Amar Rabba Bar Chana Tamchata Shma. It's Tamchata, something that's called Tamchata, and Rashi says it's something that's called whorehound, and we translated, most of them before translated, and what we use nowadays is chrein, is horseradish, it's chrein. Charvina, what is Charvina? Amar Shimon ben Lakish, he says, Atzvasa de Dikla. It's the vine that grows around the palm tree. That vine that grows around the palm tree. But more, and with more, what's moror? Mirit. That's a mirirta. So Rashi translated it as something called burdock. But the Rabbeinu Dovid, it says it's all kinds of, it's a general term, it's a generic term, it's all kinds of bitter vegetables. Tane bar kapora el yirok shadam yitza bem yudei chavaysa bepesach. He can be yitza with ulshana betamcha b'charchalin b'charvinin b'chazirin, and also with chazirin. That's chazeres, the plural of chazeres, and you can be yitza with all these things. Rabbi Yehuda says af ulshe sodik, even ulshe sodik, it's a type of endive. Ulshe sodik, ulshe gina, and ulshe gina v'chazeres. So the way it seems to be over here, and where the most Forshim learn, is that it's a machlekes. Can you be yaitza with these types of endives? And they have, these types have a shem levaya. They have an accompanying name. So it seems to be that it's a machlekes that the Tanakama says you can't, and Rabbi Yehuda says that even though it has an accompanying name, that you could be yaitza with it, even though it has a shem levaya. So that seems to be a machlekes. Now in the Sugya and Sukkah and Daf Gimel, it's the Maskan over there seems to be that if it has a Shem Levaya, it is disqualified. But it seems to be that this is really, it's Machlekes Tanoim, and according to Rabbi Yehuda, it's kosher. But the Sugya over there, L'chayr, is going according to the Tanakama. So, Frag the Gemara, Ul Shegina v'Chazeres, why does Rabbi Yehuda mention also again and chazeres? When it was already mentioned, it was hatanale reisha. It was already mentioned previously, and he mentions, the Tanakam mentions ulshin, and that's ulshegina. And so, what's the reason to mention ulshegina? To mention ulshe soda, we understand, but ulshegina is a standard type of ulshin. And Chazeres is mentioned. So why does he mention these things? He should just mention Ulshe Soneh. So Gemara answers Hachi Kamar. Af Ulshe Soneh ke Ulshe Gina v'Chazeres. Ulshe Soneh is kosher just like Ulshe Gina, which is a standard type of Ulshin, and Chazeres, which is a standard more, it's also kosher. He holds it's also kosher. The Gemara continues, Reb Meir Omer Af Asvas v'Tura Amar Yeroya. These are also minim, and also minim that are kosher for more. Omer le Rav Yossi said they're not all different minim. He said asas v'tura echadhu, that's the same min. Umar zehu yeroar, and mar is what's known as yeroar. It's not umar yeroar. Mar is what it's also called yeroar. Tana the Bei Shmuel. He learned the following: El Yerokas Shodam Yais B'Midei Chavasa B'Pesach. These are the Yerokas that a person can be Yais on Pesach. B'Chazeres B'Ulshin V'Samch Uv'Charbinin Uv'Charginin. So all of these things are what we already defined that are in the Mishnah. Ub'Hardaishnin, and Hardaishnin, which is Rashi says is wormwood. Rabbi Yehuda Omer Av Chazeres Yulin V'Chazeres Galan Ki Yais B'Hem. He says also these types of Chazeres. And so Rabbi Yehuda Shitasa says that even though it has the Shem Levi, it's kosher. These are also kosher for mar. Rabbi Eloi, Omer Mishum Rabbi Eliezer, Av Akablin. He says also our kablin, that's also kosher. Rashi defines our kablin as the ivy that grows around the trunk of a palm tree. Now, l'chera, this would seem to be the same as what we learned before by Charachavina. However, the Aruch LaNer in Sukkah says that there are two different minim. L'chera, one would say that the Charchavina is the vine, and these are the ivy, the leaves. But these are both things that the plants that grow around the palm trees. So he says, Af Arkvablin. The Chazarti called Talmidov, and I checked with all his Talmidim, and I wanted someone to support this. I couldn't find anyone, but if Rabbi Elazar ben Yaakov, then Hoida Ledvar. He was Moida and he supported it. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, he says, Kol sheyesh lo sarav, anything that has, when you cut it open, that it has sap, these vegetables that these are kosher for Mara. The sap that we're talking about, Rashi says, is that when you cut it open, many times on Yerokas, there's like a milky liquid that flows from it. So that's what we're referring to. Rav Yochanan ben Breikaimer, Kol shepanav machsifin, when the color is pale, it's a pale green, it's kosher. If it's bitter, it has the yerek mar, and it's pale, and that's kosher for Mar. Amar Rabbi Yochanan, it says, from all of them we can learn out that Yerek Mar Yesh Lo Yisraf upon Machsif, like the Acher. Amar Ravuna Halacha Kacher. That's the Halacha. Ravina Ashchel Ravach Break the Rav Havamahar Amamirt. He was searching to use for more Jamaris. That's what he was searching for. So that's that type of more that's called marisa. That's what he was looking for to be yaitz the mitzvah. Amalei, my daitcha. Why are you searching dafka for that? Mir and tvei, because they're very bitter. V'chazeres tanan. The first one listed in the Mishnah is chazeres. So meaning that the lettuce, that's the preferred one. V'tanah bei Shmuel chazeres. He learned that he taught it first. So that one is the one that should be l'charchila. V'amar Avaisha mitzvah b'chazeres. That's the l'charchila. The mitzvah is with the chazeres. So that's what you should be mahar for. V'amar Rava my chazeres is chasa. It's the lettuce. My chasa. Why is it given the term chasa? Why is it called chasa for the more? The chas Rachmani Lavan. The Rebbeinu Shalom had Rachmanis. He had mercy on us. He took us out of Mitzrayim. Why are the Mitzrim compared to Mar? It says Chayim. It's a reference to the Mitzrim, that they embittered our lives. So their actions are called Mar. So why are they to teach you at the beginning it's soft, but then it hardens. So then the stock becomes hard like wood. So af mitzrim tchilas and rakav v'seifa kosher. They also at the beginning were soft, so they enticed the Yidden by being nice to them at the beginning. They were soft, but at the end they were hard and harsh. Amrle hadrabi. He says I'm chayzer. Therefore, the preference should be given to the chazeres. That's the one that should be lecharchila used. So we have all these lists of bitter herbs, different yerokas, which are more. How bichlal do you know that more is a vegetable? The kufya. Maybe it's referring to the marir more. It's the gall of the kufya fish. So my answer is dumi the matzah. It's compared to matzah. Ma matzah gedulei karka. Something grows from the ground. Af morar gedulei karka. Well, maybe this grows from the ground. It's what Moshe Rabbeinu used to sweeten the waters, the bitter waters in the midbar. Maybe that's what it's referring to. So maybe that's what referring to specifically that. So maybe it's hirduv. The Gemara says, "Dumi the matzah." Ma matzah min zroim. Af mor min zroim. So it's not a tree. It's a min zroim. It's things that you plant. It's that variety, not a tree. And this is a wood. Ve'ima harzifu. Maybe it's a harzifu. It's a poisonous plant. But it's a plant, so it's poisonous, it's bitter. Do the matzah. Ma matzah shnikachas b'kesav ma'aser. Matzah is something that comes from the grains. that you could use to buy for Kesef Meiser, it's food, half more, Shenikach, but Kesef Meiser, it has to be something that you can buy with Meiser money. And these are foods and not these things which are poisonous to animals. Well, how do you know that it's different types of species? How do you know they're different minim? Maybe it's more, it's chad. It's only one. It's only one type. Or answers miraymim ksiv. It says in the plural miraymim. Ve'ema affecting more miraym tray. Okay, maybe there's only two minim, two species, two types, not more. Dumi de matzah. More answers dumi de matzah. Ma matzah minim harbe, just like matzah. It has different, many species. Af more minim harbe. It means minim harbe. So when the more is said that maybe more is chad, maybe it's one. So Rashi says, and it's the most bitter one. You choose the one that's most bitter. And the Slach says that we should choose like we said, the chazeres. Chazeres is the one that's listed first, meaning the way he understands it. The question is, maybe it should be only chasa. Maybe it should be only that and nothing else, and not the other types. As we say, no, that it says it in the plural, therefore it's been many types of them. Omar Rav Bar Rav Huna Omar Rav is a Yerok Kisham Chamshar Miyitzbem Dei Chayvasa Bepesach. The different types of species, the meaning that you can be Yotze the Chiyuv more on Pesach Kulam Nizraim Barugachas. You can all plant them all in one patch, in one vegetable patch, garden patch. You can plant them together. What does it mean to teach you? So the Meimra, the less Mishum Kalaim, you need to say that there's no Kalaim here, and that's why they can plant it together. Masiv Rav, Chazeres, Chazeres, Galian, Ulshin, Ulshe Sodin, if the Chazeres, and what's called Chazeres, Galian, Ulshin, the endives, Ulshe Sodin, Krishin, Krishe Sodin, leeks and wild leeks. Kuzbar Sodin, coriander and wild coriander, Chad, Chal, Mitzri. The mustard and Egyptian mitzvah, mustard, the dalas, mitzvah harmutz, and the Egyptian gourd and ramutz. It's also a type of a gourd, a different type of the gourd. Einam kalaim zebeseh. So they're not kalaim one with each other, meaning each pair is not a kalaim with the other. So megadi chazeres galin in, but chazeres ulshin loy. It's only chazeres and chazeres gal. The two pairs, or the Ulshin and the Ulsha Sodeh. But Chazeres and Ulshin would be collided together. You can't plant all the minim. Now, these are all minim of Mora, but you can't plant them all in an aruga. So, maybe you'll say, Kula Bahadari Katani. Maybe you'll say, no, it means that you can plant it together. Einam Kalai means that they all can be planted together. Maybe that's what you'll say, Ivam Rav, Zugas Katani. No, it's only in pairs. The different pairs can be planted together in a ruga and not kilayim, but not all of them minim together. So he answers in Chanami, mine is roim dama rav. What do you mean that they're planted together? It doesn't mean that you can all plant all of these together randomly in one patch, but it's roim keil chosayin. They're planted in the prescribed manner, so that they're not kalaim, meaning they would be kalaim if they're just planted all together, but if they're spaced properly, they're not kalaim, which we'll see in the next year what the proper spacing should be.